The tables that we're going to be using for this chapter and what you'll be using on the final are starting on page 684. And so there's a table 1 on 684, which is the present value of $1 to be received at the end of a time period. And then there are table number 2 on the next page, which is the present value. Oh, hold on. Yep. Present value of $1 received each period for a given number of periods. Okay, so those are the 2 tables that you're going to be needing for the final exam. All right, let's just start out with just some simple calculations of bond prices. So look at exercise number 7 on page 477. So exercise 10-7, page 477. All right, on this one. Come on, gentlemen. Boris Inc. is considering the sale of 2 bond issues. Choice A is $400,000 bond issue that pays semi-annual interest of $32,000 and is due in 20 years. Choice B is also a $400,000 bond issue that pays semi-annual interest of $30,000 and is due in 15 years. Assume that the market interest rate for each bond is 12%. So calculate the amount that the bond will receive if both are made. So for A, bonds have 2 cash flows. So the bond face value in both cases, $400,000. And B, $400,000. And then they both pay interest on a periodic basis. So A is paying $32,000 in interest, and B is paying $30,000 in interest. To look up the tables, you need 2 things. You need to know the time period involved and the interest rate. You need the time period involved because that's the rows that are in the table. So row 1 is 1 year, 1 period, 2 periods, 3 periods, so forth. And then you need the interest rate. And this is where you need to put in your notes or on your textbook a little sticky note of some sort to always use the market rate. So the market rate is given to us here as 12%. The maturity value is 20 for A, and 15 for B. However, in both cases, these are years and annual interest rate. In both cases, the interest is going to be paid semi-annually. It's given to us in the problem. The problem told us. The market rate. So this is market rate.
And the percent that's given in there is the market rate?
Yes, it tells you in the problem, it states that assume that the market interest rate for each bond is 12%. So when it is semi-annual, you need to double N and halve I. Because what we're doing is paying 12% per year. So if we're going to pay it every 6 months, we're really paying 6% in the 6-month period. But rather than 20 of these interest payments at $32,000, we're really getting 40.
Paying twice a year is double the, and
Double the number of payments. So N gets doubled and I gets halved.
So it doubles because it's.
Because there's 20 periods. I mean, there's 20 years, but how many payments are going to be received? 40 of them, because you're going to pay it semi-annually. And you're not really getting 12% every 6 months. You're only getting 6%. Okay? Does everybody understand that nuance? All right. So if you go to the table, and you're going to use both Table 1 and Table 2. Table 1 is a single dollar sometime in the future. That's what this is. When the bond matures, it's going to pay the bondholders $400,000 in a single check. Okay? It's going to pay the $32,000 every 6 months. So it's going to pay 40 of these for bond A. And then 30 of those $30,000 for bond B.
40 payments of interest for 32 years.
Why?
I say you divide.
No, you're going to multiply these by factors. So I'm just telling you how to look it up in the tables. So in the tables, under Table 1, column 6% down to row 40, you're going to get a factor of 0.097. So if I'm going to pay you
40 payments. Okay, this is
$1 40 years from now, first of all, good luck collecting that, because I'll be I'll be 98 years old, but notwithstanding. If I'm going to pay you $1, it's really worth 9.7 cents to you today. If you could earn 6% on it, which you can't, not right now, but maybe over a 40-year period, you could probably reasonably get a 6% return on your money. Okay? So that's what that means. Yes, sir.
So will the maturity and the market rate, will that always be doubled in half?
If I give you semi-annual interest,
Okay.
which when we get around to reviewing for the final exam, I give you annual interest just to keep it simple on the final. But most of the problems that we're going to be doing for illustrative purposes today will be semi-annual interest, because that's what the marketplace uses. Overwhelmingly, bonds that are sold pay semi-annually. Okay? All right. So if we multiply that out, we will get $38,800. If we go to that same table in that same column, 6% column, and look at row 30 rather than row 40, we find a factor of 0.174, which is 69,600. That's for the value today for that 400,000 maturity face value of the bond in either 20 years time or 30 years time or 15 years time. All right? So that's one cash flow streams. The other cash flow stream is the interest, the periodic interest that in this case is paid every 6 months. You go to table number 2. And I'll show you this here once we do a couple of problems on the board. I'll actually project the tables up on the wall on the screen here in a second and show you what the tables are made of. All table number 2 is a summation of table 1. Because really, what is the value of $1 paid every year for 2 years?
$1 paid every year.
Every year. If I pay you $1 next year and $1 the year after, You got a more reasonable chance of collecting that because I'll hopefully be around for that period of time. No, it's not. Not to you today. Because it's a year from now.
Oh, a year from now?
It's not worth $1 today. $1 is only worth $1 today. So if you go to table number 2 and you add up the present value of a year from now from table 1 to the second row in table 1, you will get the second row in table 2. And I'll show that to you here in a second. But anyway, table 2, the factor under the 6% column down to row 40 is 15.046. That's a total of $481,472. Add those two together, you get a bond issue price of $520,272. It's selling at a premium. It's selling for more than the face value. Why? Because what's the market rate?
15.
12%. What's the bond paying? I don't know, whatever 32 divided by 40 is. Or, I mean, 64 divided by 40 is. So something lower. All right, so over in table 2 for the 15-year row, you'll get a factor of 13.765. Add those together, or multiply those together, you get 412,950. That's a total of 482,550. Also a premium. Not as much as one because it's not as long a bond. So that's how you calculate the price of a bond. And I'm going to do another one here in a second.
Which one is more profitable?
What's that?
Which one would be considered more profitable?
It wouldn't really matter. I mean, it depends on how long you want this debt to be outstanding. You know, because this one, this is a good, both of them are paying the same amount of interest, but you can see the difference between just 5 years' time. The difference between continuing to pay the interest for 20 years versus 15 years is an extra almost $80,000 in interest. So keep that in the back of your mind when you go to sign that first car loan after graduation and they offer you a 7-year loan rather than a 3-year loan. Maybe take the 3 because the interest is huge. It's a huge difference if you can do it in 3 or 4. Or more important, I knew one guy in my entire 35-year career. One guy who did this, and I was envious of him till today. Rather than borrowing money to buy a car, when he graduated, he kept driving the junker that he'd been driving all the way through college, and he drove it for 4 years, and he took the equivalent of a car payment and he put it in the bank every month. And so at the end of the 4 years, he walked into a car dealership and he just bought a car for cash. And then he continued that. Every 4 years, he had enough money to just go in there and just buy the darn thing. Never paid a dime of interest in his entire life. It was really smart. Really smart guy. Okay. All right, let's look at exercise number 8. And this is the same, and we're not going to do all 5 iterations. We'll do 2 or 3 of them in here just to finish this up. It's on the same page, exercise number 8. The price, yes. Exactly.
Bond issue cost is.
Yeah, this was the same guy who went all the way through Virginia Tech and got a 5-year program to get engineering in chemical engineering, and he lived in the commuter lot in a van. He used to get up every morning, walk down to the wellness center, the gym there, and take a shower and brush his teeth and get dressed in a van. Dead of winter. This is Blacksburg, Virginia, up in the mountains. Dead of winter. He's out there in that van, all curled up in a sleeping bag. He saved money. That man can really save money. Anyway.
How you doing that?
Oh, he's got a house overlooking the Pacific Ocean south of Portland, Oregon now. And he works out of his house.
I'm stuck living in my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a...
Is he the Nike fan?
No. No. You know what he sells? He sells sand to Japan. The sand, it's a special type sand that they use to make silicone chips. And he works for a company here in the United States. And he works out of his house because he's constantly flying to Japan. And that's what he does. Yeah. He's completely fluent in Japanese. He speaks perfect Japanese. Yeah. No, that's Chinese. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
So, yeah.
You see me in Chinese duality.
Yeah. I spent 3 years there. I know very little Chinese. So, okay. Using Table 1, calculate the issue price of a $150,000 bond in each of the following independent cases. Assume interest in each case is paid semi-annually. And so they give you a whole bunch. I'm going to just do 3. I'm going to do option A, option C, and let's see. A is a gain. Yeah, A, C, and E. So A, C, and E. Okay. So in each case, the bond face is $150,000. I didn't leave enough room to multiply it out. Let's put this here. Okay. In case 1, it's a 10-year, 8% bond issue. So the 8% is the face value. All right? So in this case, it's 10%. They are 10-year, but it's semi-annual. So we're going to use 20. The 8% is what the bond pays. So that's the interest. Okay? So $150,000 times the 8% is $6,000 paid semi-annually. Because 8% of $150,000 is $12,000 a year, paid twice a year, is semi-annual of $6,000. The market rate, however, is 10%. Remember in your notes, in big bold letters, you always use the market rate. Because what would happen if you went to the tables and looked up the 8% by accident? What would be the price of the bond? I can tell you without even looking. Huh? It's $150,000. No, I don't know the factors, but when you get done multiplying out the factors, if you used 8% rather than the 10%, you'd get a $150,000 price. Because if the market rate and the face rate are equal, then it will sell for the face value of the bond. Because there's no premium, no discount. Your market wanted 8%, you gave them 8%. No harm, no foul. Okay? So if you get to that answer on the final exam, I caution you. You've done it wrong, because I'm not giving you a problem with the market rate and the face rate equal. Okay? So if you get to something similar, and it won't be exactly 150, it'll be like 151,000 or 150,052 dollars, or 149,987. It'll be something close. That you did it wrong. Use the market rate. All right? So if you go to, so what column are you going to look at if this was a 10% market rate? 5%, exactly. So if you look at the 5% column down to row 20, in table number 1, you will get a factor of 0.377. In table number 2, you'll get 12.462.
So you get the 6,000 by multiplying 150,000 times 8.
Correct. And then dividing it in half. Yeah, because it's semi-annual. All right? If you multiply the 150, you get $56,550. You multiply the 6,000, and you get $74,772, or a price of $131,322, which is less than the face value. And why is it less than? Because you're paying what? You're paying 8%, and what did the market want? 10. So you're not giving them enough interest for them to bother with your pesky little bond. They won't buy it at $150,000 because it's not enough. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
So where do you get the 12.466?
That's the table. This is table 2, and this is table 1.
Oh, okay.
Table 1. Yes. Table 2. Yes, same column and same row. God bless you.
And the 6,000?
6,000 is the 150,000 times 8% interest.
So we multiply the second one by table 2 and the first one by table 1.
Correct. And the only difference between the two is table 1 is a single payment, whereas table 2 is multiple
So
payments.
a single payment would be the 56,550.
Yes. That's the value of the 150,000 in 10 years' time, earning 10% interest.
But they would have to get the bond, they have to pay.
That's what it's worth today.
That's
And they're gonna pay every 2.
But they're going to pay for this because you're not just getting this single payment. You're getting this also every 6 months. So the combination of the two cash flow streams is the price of the bond.
You pay that price every year?
No,
6 months?
when you buy it.
Oh, when you buy it.
If you're buying the bond, you go out and you spend $131,322. You own that bond for the next 10 years. And every 6 months, they're going to send you a check in the mail for that.
And then once it matures, it's-
That's assuming you could find a bond paying 10% right now, which, trust me, you can't. So, huh?
They're gonna pay you $7,000.
No, they're paying you this, and then they're in 10 years' time, they're going to pay you that. Okay?
I know, right?
All right. C, the second one. This is a 10-year, 10% bond with a market interest rate of 8%. So what does a 10% bond pay semi-annually in interest? 10% of 150,000 is what? 15,000 divided in half. You were right. 7,500. That's what it's going to pay in interest. So on this one, N is still worth, N is still worth 20, only now I equals 4%. Because it's an 8% market rate. You look at the 4% column, down to row 20, and you will get a factor in table 1 of 0.456, and in table 2, 13.590.
Why did you multiply it by 2%? Is that what it's asking?
It's a 10% face interest rate. So that's what interest is going to pay every 6 months on a semi-annual basis.
When the last one was 8%.
And the last one was 8%, correct. And the next one we're going to do is 10% too. So, but for a different, we're going to do it for 20 years rather than 10 years. All right, does that make sense to everyone? If I multiply this one out, I get 14,550, and I get 112,008. I'm sorry, reading the wrong row. I get 8,400 and 101,925 for 170,325. A premium because the market only wanted 8% and you gave them 10. Okay?
When you multiply those rates, right, I'm sorry, the bond pays by the annual percentage,
This, the 13 or the 7,500?
you multiply those two figures, right?
Right, to come here, to get the price. All right? Okay, the last one. This one is also paying 10% interest, so it's $7,500 in cash every 6 months. On this one, N is equal to, this is a 20-year bond, so we're going to look at row 40, and interest is worth 6%, so we're going to look in the 3% column.
Oh, you already adjusted.
Yeah, I'm already having it because I'm running out of boardroom space. So I've already halved the interest rate and doubled the number of years. So if I look up the factor in table 1 under column 3% down to row 40, I get 0.307 and I get 23.115. $46,050 and 173,363 for a total of $219,413. Another premium. Because we're paying 10%, where now the market only wanted 6%. So we're really giving them more than they wanted on this last example.
So they're happy with the last one?
They're very happy on that last one.
First one is, second one they're satisfied.
All right, has everybody got that one? I'm going to lower the screen if you...
So it tells us in a sentence that what was the one that they wanted? They wanted 10%.
No, we're paying in C and E, we're paying 10%. In C, the market only wanted 8%, whereas in E, the market only wanted 6%. Okay? Okay. Has everybody got this?
Who are we saying is happy with the bank is happy, right?
What's that?
The bank is happy.
If it's a premium, the bank is always happy.
Well, if it's whoever's investing in these bonds, if you're getting 10% and the market only wants 6, then you're happy to find a 10% bond out there. So, but you're having to pay for it because the price is way up. You can see that. So this is how the market equalizes that difference. Because this is only $150,000 worth of bonds. But in order to get that 10% stream of cash coming in every 6 months, you had to pay up front $219,413. You paid a premium of $69,000, almost 70 grand extra.
This is the same thing as bearer bond, right?
That's what they used to be called back when they had coupons on them. But now almost all bonds are registered. Yeah, when you buy a bond through your broker, they know who you are. You go on to an online account and you put in your name and your address. So they know where to send the interest to. It used to be that people would cut those little coupons out. And then on the back, there was a place for your name and address. And you would write your name and address on the back of them and then mail them off. Yeah, if you've got some bearer bonds laying around, there's still some out there. Yeah, yeah. Keep them locked up, you know, because if you lose them, you lose them. All right? All right. Let's look at a couple of problems here. And then I'm going to complete the circuit, which is what do you do after you buy it? All right? So, we're going to do $500,000 worth of bonds. The face is paying 8%. All right, so $500,000 at 8% is $40,000 a year, but it's going to pay it semi-annually. So it's going to pay 20 grand every 6 months. Okay? The market wants 10%. So you know automatically that this bond is going to sell for less than the $500,000. Because the market wants 10, you're giving them 8. So they're going to penalize you for cheating them every 6 months out of the 10% they need in order to make this type of investment. Okay? So, if you go to table number 1, and this is a 10-year life. So under 10, and let me pull up the table because not all of you have your books. So give me 2 seconds and maybe 2 minutes to log in. So 684. All right. So these are the present value tables. And this makes sense. If I was offering to give you $1 a year from now, and you could earn 1% on that dollar, it's worth 99 cents now. Because what would you earn in a year? 0.9 cents. 0.199 of a cent, which would give you the dollar. So that's what all this is. If you could earn 10% on it, it's worth basically 91 cents today. Because in a year's time, you could earn 90 cents on it, which would give you the dollar. And then 2 years and so forth. So in here, under 10%, you could earn 8.3 cents on it. That would give you 9 D.1. 0.91 in a year from now. Because you'd earn 8.83 right? Add that to it, now you got to here. Earn it for another year, you got your dollar. So you see those two factors, 0.909 and 8.2? If you go to table 2, 0.1736 is the sum of those two rows. That's all that is. Because if I'm going to pay you $1 every year for 2 years, that's worth to you $1.74 today. Because in the dollar that I pay you a year from now, you can earn a little bit of money on it. You can earn 9 cents on that dollar.
So if you waited, you make $2, but today it's only worth 170.
Yes.
I got you.
All right? Does this make sense now? Okay. So back to our problem here. We've got a face rate of 8%. That's what's driving the interest on the cash every 6 months, the interest revenue that you're going to be receiving. He's going to do it semi-annually. So 8% of $500,000 is $40,000 per year. I'm going to pay it to you in 2 equal installments, $20,000 apiece. All right? So if you go to the table, and market rate is 10%. So if you go to the 5%, I'm sorry, go to table 1 first. If I go to the 5%, and I go not to row 10, because it's a 10-year bond, I go to row 20. So 5% to row 20 is 0.377. All right, everybody with me so far? So the $500,000 is worth really $188,500 today. Ignore this over here. I'll get to this over here in a second. All right? What's the $20,000 per year paid semi-annually for 10 years worth? You go over to table number 2, look under the same 5% column, down to row 20, because you're going to get 20 of these payments. That's 12.462. That $20,000 is worth today $249,240. The bond will sell for $437,740.
So what's the 437,689?
I'll get to that right here.
What?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, so what the 20,000?
That's what the face rate is 8%. So that's the interest checks that you're going to receive semi-annually. So 8% of $500,000 worth of bonds pays $40,000 worth of interest per year. It's going to pay it in 2 installments every 6 months, $20,000. So all I did was I multiplied the 500 by 0.08, and then I divided it by 2. That's all.
It's
Semi-annual interest, exactly.
And so basically, you just pay for.
So this $437,000 for $500,000, it's $500,000 worth of bonds that you get to buy today only for $437,740.
You just pretty much paid that.
And why did you get to buy it at that discount? Because you needed 10% in order to pull the trigger on that investment. And they're only giving you 8. So you make up the difference in the price. Okay? All right. Is everybody good with this so far?
I just gotta remember.
All right. Now, that's the first half of the final exam problem.
How many? You want one?
No, there's 3. This is the first half of this chapter's example. You get a full 2 hours for the final exam. It's open book, open note. Come on.
Test, right?
Huh?
It's our last test?
It's your final exam, yeah, in a month from now.
We're studying for a test for a month from now?
Well, we got to get there. We got two other chapters to talk about. And we don't have class Monday, right? Don't forget that. Do not come here. It's Easter Monday. You will be very lonely on campus. There's lots of parking available on campus come Monday. If you want to drive in here and get in the front row, that would be the day, because there's nobody here. Even administrators and staff. I mean, you won't be able to get in this building. It'll be locked.
Well, no, you can get in this building because the chapel's open. Or no?
No, that's the admin building. Yeah, yes, sir. Huh? You've got school tomorrow. There's no Good Friday. There's no class,
Thursday, there's no night classes.
and there's no night classes on Thursday. So,
So Good Friday is something.
yes, yeah. The campus is shut down Good Friday too. It's one of those rare holidays that they give the administrators and staff off. So, the registrar's office, nothing. You can't come in and do anything Friday and Monday. Okay, so $437, $740, $437,000. Interest needs to be recorded on a annual basis. All right? Because the cash that this bond issuer is sending is not all of the interest expense. It's more, because they have this $62,260 discount.
Okay, that 180.
Oh, he's talking about the 500 and the 400.
So this was the sale price. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You have a discount. The difference between the face value and that you need to get to by the end of the 10-year period. So year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. I need more. Let me get some more years here. Let's see. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There we go. Magic. Yes. So here's the years. Here is the interest payments that we're receiving, in this case, on August the 31st and the end of February. So that's every 6 months. That $20,000 is only part of the equation. If you're going to borrow $437,740 at an effective interest rate of 10%, semi-annual, so 5%, you're really borrowing $21,887 worth of interest. That's the carrying value multiplied by the market rate. Yeah, at half of the market rate. So 5% of $437,740. The difference between those two is really paying some of that back. You're now, instead, you're borrowing because they wanted that. That's what the market wanted. They wanted $21,887. You only gave them $20,000. You shorted them by $1,887. Add that to the amount that you borrowed. You're now, in essence, borrowing $439,627 from the bondholders.
Should that be subtracted or added?
Added. This is a discount.
So we owe
You owe them money. And what you're doing is you're borrowing a little bit more each 6-month period in order to get to the face value that you're going to pay them. Because what are you going to pay them in 10 years' time? $500,000.
You gotta get there.
So how do you get from here to there?
Owe them money.
You owe them a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more every 6 months.
I don't like it.
And at the end, and then you're not going to get a 10-year problem,
I ain't no car.
but at the end, you'll see that the face value, the carrying value of the bond is $500,135. And what is, why the 135? Because your tables only have 3 decimal points. It's a rounding error.
So if they have more than that,
If, did you see all these numbers over here? If you calculated your table out to an infinite number of decimal points, that's what the factor would be in table 1. It wouldn't be 0.377, it would be 0.3768894822283. If you multiply that out, the bond really should be selling for $437,689. All right? If I do this same If I do this same calculation over here using that price, it gets exactly to $500,000. The reason I show that to you, on the final exam, I'm going to give you a 5-year bond paying annually. It's not, because you're only using a table with 3 decimal points. So when you get to the bottom, don't panic. All right? If it's close, you're fine. All right? And I'll refresh that lesson when I do the review for the final. Yes, sir.
you said annually, right? Not
I'm going to do an annual one for the final,
semi-annual.
so not semi-annual. So you'll be able to use whatever the market rate that I give you on the final. You'll be able to go straight to the tables and look that up.
Okay, so there's no like doubling or.
You won't have to double it. You won't have to have it and all. Yes. Okay? Does this make sense? So there's really 2 things to take from this chapter. How do you calculate the price of a bond? Which rate do you use? I just gave it away. Use the market rate. And then how to amortize the premium or the discount. In this case, it was a premium. It actually was a discount. This was a discount. But I could easily flip this around and make it a premium. Because if I take this face rate and call it 12%, you can see it changed the $20,000 to $30,000. Now the market price is $562,311. And what are you doing in the here? You're subtracting it rather than adding it. Because the market only wanted $28,000 now, and you're giving them $30,000. So now you're overpaying them, so you're slowly whittling away the amount that you owe them each and every time. And at the end of the 10-year period, once again, it's worth $500,000. Make sense? It's going to make sense a month from now. I hope so.